And reflecting back is, you've talked about, a show that was very crazy where you played dual roles. Is there any other shows that you can think of that were the craziest show that you've been involved in?
The craziest show probably would be, just thinking, would be the California Suite show we did in London. John Caldwell directed, Terry Leach was involved with it. Who else? Pat Forgy and Teresa Graf. Yeah, the four of us and John. And Allison. And we actually drove to London, had to set up the stage, all this kind of, so it's like drive the truck, set it up, do the show, tear it down, drive to another little place. But it was always just a big whirlwind of activity. We never really rested or stopped, and we were trying lines in the car and in the truck. And that show, the first act with the couple talking about their daughter, looking for custody, there are lines like, shall I get Jenny? What do you want to do about Jenny? Let's talk to Jenny. And each one of those goes off somewhere. And most nights, either Terry or I would say one of the wrong lines. We'd go off in the wrong direction, and you'd hear John Caldwell backstage with the script going this, and flipping back and flipping back, and finally come back around after this big circle tour to get back on track again. But that's what makes live theater fun, those kind of things. I mean, I've had shows where they put real booze in the liquor, real scotch on the bars one night, things like that. So
that sounds crazy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Especially when they don't tell you, and you're used to iced tea, and suddenly it's, whoa, this is real scotch.
Well, it's always a good idea to never throw an actor off.
Not,
and I find
yeah.
what you were saying, though, is that, it's good when actors have each other's back. If we make a mistake with a line, being able to recover, and that's the beauty of live theater,
Yes.
as you said.
Yeah.
And finding your way back, and the audience, you may know, but the audience doesn't necessarily know.
No idea what's been going on for the last 10 minutes.
So, with a different hat on, how do you approach directing?
Let me get yelled at for this. But I am not one to sit at a table for weeks on end doing scene work and character studies. I like first rehearsal. I like to get the actors on their feet, go through it as much as we can, and then during that time, I think they've understood the characters. Then usually we sit down and we can chat and figure out things after they know certain things, rather than the first rehearsal when things haven't really been tested yet, I guess. So that's.
So it sounds like you like the kinesthetic approach, getting people involved, engaged right from the get-go.
Yes.
But still having that opportunity to have dialogue once they've had a chance to start experimenting with it.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we had, I know, with Class Menagerie, we had the first act done, and then we sat down one night and just talked. It was amazing what came up that helped after they had already blocked and seen each other.
And that brings new levels out.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot.
So theater right now is, a lot of groups are taking time to think about how are they going to come back. So what are your thoughts on using online methods to reach out to audiences?
I think it's great. I love some of the stuff like you're doing, and I'm doing little things through work like this. I was in a little music video that was put together. The play readings online that we do, when my internet works. That's right. But I think it's a great way. People use their imagination more. There's so much more creativity, I think, when people have to do this. And then, the other Spoon River thing I was talking to you about, I'm still working on. So just much more creativity, I think. People think more outside the box than just, here's the theater, here's the stage, go to it.
Absolutely. It's a time of uncertainty, but they say in change management that in that period of uncertainty is when some of the greatest creativity takes place.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see how excited you are by that. And what advice would you have for recent theater grads or for volunteers, for people who are interested in getting involved?
Recent theater grads, I would say don't be afraid to take any role. I mean, you see a lot of kids come out, they don't want to do anything unless they get a lead, or they don't want a small thing or help backstage. I would say if you really want to learn the craft. I guess that's the way I learned most of it, was just get into a group, work on a show, even if a game, as I said, sweeping the floor, looking for a prop, that kind of a thing, and just keep the energy there. Don't just go out saying, oh, I didn't get a role, fine, I'll go to the next group. Oh, I'll go to the next group, that kind of a thing. But I've always felt that way, I guess. So.
And as you said, there's so many different roles. There's different, it broadens your experience.
It does.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, you just look through a program and you say how many people it takes to put on a show.
Absolutely. And tell me, what projects, you mentioned some projects. So what projects have you been doing before things shut down? Or, what's happening right now?
Well, we were 2 weeks away from opening a red plaid shirt with the Guild. So that's all ready. We were all set to go with that. We've had a couple of virtual rehearsals, and we had one here the other night with masks and that, just to get the actors back up in their feet again. As I said, we did a music video. I'm doing little interviews like this through work. Again, you name it, I'm trying to do it and put that other play idea together online. So, I mean, if the big stars can do it with their late night talk shows and all this kind of stuff, this is the new way to do it.
Wonderful. And so it's interesting hearing you talk about, all the things you've done over the years, and so I'm wondering, what keeps you coming back? What's it about theater that's always going to be important to you?
The people. Maybe a little fast to say it, but yes, the people. The family. It's a family.
Yeah, it does become a family. You get to know people working on a common goal, a production.
I mean, for a few months you're with those same people through weddings, deaths, whatever, births, you name it. You know those people so well, and then they're gone.
Yeah, and each show you might see them again with a different production, but it's never the same. Yeah.
I know for a while I used to go through the whole thing of like sort of being in a show, rehearsing one, getting one ready, just so it just kept going, that it wasn't any downtime. I was always with people and doing stuff.
Sometimes actors and directors, producers were notorious for it because we don't want that downtime.
That's true. I know. There's so much going on.
So.
I know. I mean, besides this, I was also supposed to do a show for Pride weekend, or last weekend it was going to be on, but it got canceled. So we're just waiting to find new ways to do it, or hopefully everything reopens, we can get back up on stage and make people laugh again.
Well, that's a wonderful way to conclude our time today, because it's nice to think of things on a positive note, that there are new and wonderful ways for us to reach out and continue to do things. And in a time of uncertainty, there's time of creativity.
Oh, I like that. I like that. There's your headline.
So, thank you for joining us, and thank you for telling me so much about you that I didn't know before.
Oh, anytime.
Great, thanks again.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us.